So, namaste everyone. Welcome to the Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions are on Aparokshanubhuti, and Bindoji has been guiding us for seven different sessions, and the sessions are available on Clubhouse as replays, or I've pasted a link for the YouTube channel, which is called Advaita Retold, where all Bindoji's talks are kind of arranged in a list that you can catch up on. So there is a small event that happened with Bindoji going for a retreat, and that resulted in a Sunday open discussion from the retreat, and this is the Wednesday following that. So small changes to the upcoming events. I'll just mention it because Bindoji is going to be traveling and won't be available for the Friday and the Sunday. So the next two events that were previously scheduled for Wednesday at 8:30 IST Friday and Sunday are going to be cancelled. And the next class, which will be Aparokshanubhuti class number 9, will be the following Wednesday. And for this particular session, as you know, the link for the the book to follow is pasted up on the top, where you can have some translations towards in English, but there is a text which is purely Sanskrit based on the chat. With that, again, the chat and the the hand raising will be closed during the hour of presentation, after which they'll be open for Q&A discussions. With that, Bindoji, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Atmisha. Welcome all. Last Sunday, open discussion room, there was no replay on because it was scheduled by me, and I didn't look into the details of it. So it's my mistake, and we could not keep the replay on, which I am collecting for posting as discussions in the YouTube. But as far as the Aparokshanubhuti is concerned, it's all recorded. The last class, which was the 7th one, has been uploaded. This is the 8th one. We'll continue our study of Aparokshanubhuti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahatbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmiti Murti Veda Vivakine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shri Harim Paramanandam Upadeshtaramishwaram Vyavakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham. So in the last class, we were discussing about the vichara. How the vichara or the inquiry or the deep investigation to be done, like who am I, koham, what is this world, how did it come into existence, or what is the basis for it or the substratum for it, what is or who is the cause for this world or the world of experiences of the universe in nature. Is it Jiva, or is it Ishvara, or is it something else? These are the questions which should be asked. And then if at all if there is a creation, if there is any reality to the objects experienced by us, then what is the material cause for it? or not only the intelligent cause, but also there should be a material cause, like, clay is there for pot. What should be the material cause? Because the world is of different nature. There are, the subtle, gross, then light, etc., light, magnetism, gravity. So many things are there, which can it all come from one material cause, or are there different material cause? This should be the way in which we should be asking the questions or inquiry. Not only that, we should be also looking into, is the method of inquiry logical, verifiable, and it should be verifiable by everyone who is experiencing this world. So our methodology should not be in such a way that I meditate, I know in my meditation what is the experience, but my meditation or my result of meditation is not verifiable by somebody else. Same way, if any other yoga like Tantra, Mantra, Kundalini, or, so many methods are being practiced by different people to know the truth. But the validation of that knowledge should not be limited to the individual who is doing the inquiry. While it enlightens the individual, it should also be acceptable that what I find out in my inquiry and as a satisfying answer for me is not personal in nature, unique to me, and it should be possible for me to share my experience with anybody who is asking the similar questions so that I can guide them and arrive at the same result. For that, there should be verifiable nature and it should be logical so that, it is put to test with the test of logic, and also it should not be limited by time, space or causation or objects which is in nature. So it should be in such a way that, the things will change. On a changing object, I cannot find out a reality which is, changing. So both the reality has to be an unchangeable one, with which the changing reality or the changing nature of the world can be analyzed. With this as a basis on my type of inquiry, the next verse, which is the 13th verse, says that Naham Bodhagano Deho Naham Cha Akshaganastada Yedat Vilakshanaha Kaschit Vicharaha Soyam Idrishaha. Aham, that na aham, that is naham. I am not, or not, I am not. Bodha Ganaha. Combination of Bodha means here not ghost or anything like that. Bodha here means creation or the elements, which are the fundamental nature in which the creation is supposed to be made up of. Dehaha, not I am the body. The gross body, the subtle body or the causal body or any of that type which has been known to me that I have a physical gross body. I have a mental world of my own which is personal to me. Similarly, I am expecting others also should be having similar one which is called the Deha. Na aham cha akshaganastada. Akshagana means an aggregate of senses. Aksha means senses. Ganaha means is a group or category. Because if I look into myself, I am being seen as a place where sensory inputs from my different 5 sense organs are feeding the type of experiences from the world. And that is being fed into my body and then it is a composite or a total experience which I am getting about an object. It is not, it has got a name, it has got a form, it has qualities which can be measured by my sense organs. So is it a group of sense organs and with which I am being able to experience this? Etad vilakshanaha. I am definitely not any one of them. I am different from them, different from these. Kaschit, something. That word is important, remember it. I'll explain it when it comes to that. Soyam idrishaha means the vichara has to be in similar fashion. Now, when we look into this, the Bhashya or the commentary by Vidyaranya starts with that. Nanu chaitanya vishishtaha kayaha purushaha idi bahrapatya stutrat deha karane parinidani prithivyati chatvari bhutani eva atma idi charvakaha vatanti. Now, here Vidyaranya Swami is getting into the categories of philosophers prevalent at those times. The objection, nanu, means is the beginning of an objection. Chaitanya Vishishta Kaya Purushaha. According to Bharhavatya Sutra, Brihaspati is the guru of Carvaka. Brihaspati is an ancient sage. Like we have Kanada, we have, Badarayana who wrote Brahma Sutra. We have Jaimini who wrote Mimamsa Sutra. Same way, Carvaka guru is Bharhaspatya. That is Brihaspati's followers, which is into the Carvaka system. Chaitanya Vishishta Kaya Purushaha. This body, Kaya means body. This person is endowed with consciousness as per the sutra. The sutra in the Bharhaspatya Sutra says that Purushaha Chaitanya Vishishta Kaya. That this body is endowed with consciousness, but the Purusha is not of consciousness. Thus Charvakas hold that Atman or the self, which is consciousness in nature, is not the Purusha or the person, but an aggregate of elements, which is Bhutaganaha, which is been mentioned in the sloka as earth, fire, water and air, like that. Akasha, they don't consider Akasha as an element. So for them, the space is not an element. So what happens is that if you look at the way in which they said, they have a totally material and skeptical worldview. Therefore, they are also called Lokayata. Now, if you remember the first question which Jataveda asked in the retreat was about Charvakas, which is very valid because today what happens is in the traditional teaching, they do not touch upon Carvaka philosophy at all because the texts have lost. We don't have any text available from the Carvaka except references by Swami Vidyaranya or others in their commentaries. So what happens is that we need to give importance to them from what they stood for. What they stood for was they accept only pratyaksha. That means perception. Direct perception is the only valid source of knowledge for them. They reject inference, testimony, or any other means of knowledge. They say that they are all depend upon the direct perception. So inference also needs perception without which the inference cannot be arrived at. Same way, the testimony or the Shabda Jnana cannot be accepted because that also depends upon the dependency on the hearing aid or the way in which we hear from the person whom is sitting. So they reject all other pramanas and accept that only that direct perception is their valid source of knowledge. And it has to be perceived by the sense organs. Consciousness is something which they cannot perceive by the sense organs. So they don't accept consciousness. But they accept consciousness as a endowed quality of the body of the human being, which is derived out of the four elements. Prithvi, Ap, Tejo, Vayu. All the four of them. And it is pure materialism from the point of view, Prakriti-vada, we can say. When it is being made out of this earth, water, fire and everything, consciousness, they say, is a byproduct of the physical body. The example which is referred in the Shastras, which Carvakas often quote, is that like the intoxication that arises in a drink of alcohol or somarasa, those days, is mixing of ingredients which is resulting in the intoxication. Therefore, it is a byproduct. Something similar to the modern people say that consciousness is an emerging principle in the brain because of the electrical activities and the chemicals present in the brain. The consciousness is an emerging principle of electricity and chemical activity in the brain is what is the modern materialist, modern Carvakas claim for that. And they say that there is no separate soul or Atman for that. They are very valid in their statements because they use this for rejecting anything that is supernatural. The modern Yuktivadis or, what you call Nirishwaravadis, they don't accept Ishvara. And if they don't accept God or Ishvara, they also say there is no karma, there is no karma phala, there is no birth or rebirth, or there is no afterlife, Swargadi. There is nothing like that. So what happens is that they say that what is there in my direct perception is the only reality, and I'll enjoy that or suffer from that. That is the be all and end all. No heaven, no hell. They are all poetic fictions created by, people of the Vedas to control people. That is what their belief is. And their only goal, like we say there are four goals, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They say that hedonism, or what they call it as pleasure, pure pleasure. The goal in life is to attain pleasure in whatsoever mean. Even if you have to steal for the purpose of pleasure. If you want to murder it for the purpose of pleasure. As long as we live and live happily, whether you borrowed money or not, it is not going to affect you because there is no karma and there is no karma phala. And there is no birth, there is no life after where you will be suffering. And you are not going to come back to this world again for payback the sins which you are doing now. This is the way in which they think. And they also criticize rituals and religion. They do not accept Vedas are, Aparokshanubhuti or creation of a supernatural power or Ishvara. They say Vedas are man-made and it's full of errors. There are a lot of errors and it is being used to control and superstition is the basis from which you get into all those things. It may look very valid. And priest class is seen as deceivers who exploit with weak mind by terming the terms called dharma, rituals, papa, punya, sign, etc. The original texts of Carvaka schools are lost. They are not available anymore. only references, as I said, from the scriptures is what their philosophy has been arrived at. Even though they have been marginalized by the tradition, sampradaya, they don't consider Charvaka as a philosophy at all. They consider that they are all for the illiterate people and who are living like animals. They served as an important counterpoint when philosophers used to meet, forcing the other schools like Vedanta, Advaita, Mimamsa or Nyaya Vaisheshika to defend their metaphysical and ethical views by bringing these ground realities which are valid and difficult to deny. So they often used to be successful in the initial stages, but they also got into trouble when they were cornered with expressions like experience, the subject, object, etc. So if you consider that in the Charvaka, they don't believe in soul, they don't believe in God, they have only perception as their valid means, and the goal is sensual pressure. Whereas Vedanta, they believe in Atman, they have a source or a substratum from where the whole appearance or the world is coming, which is called the Brahman. And the source of knowledge are perception, scriptures, logic, etc., anumana, etc. And the goal is mumukshutva, liberation, moksha. Then there are the other two schools like Sankhya and Buddhism, where also Sankhyas accept soul, but they don't believe in God. Ishvara was not accepted by Sankhya. But later Sankhya, in the 11th century onwards, the Ishvara Krishna was a philosopher in the Sankhya philosophy who introduced Krishna, his real name, but then he got a surname as Ishvara Krishna because he introduced the idea of Ishvara into Sankhya philosophy. They accept multiple sources for their knowledge and they also have the discriminative wisdom. But they don't have something called moksha. Sankhya has no belief in moksha. Whereas Buddhism believes in nirvana, or which is equivalent to moksha, where they also accept perception and nirvana, perception and inference as their means. They also, like the Charvaka and the Sankhya, never believed in God. Buddhism has no God. They have only dharmam chara, the means of living. So they were more or less like Charvakas, but they all believed in what you call moksha or nirvana, which is not rebirth, but as a means of emancipation from the dukkha nivritti, or the problems of getting out of the problems of sorrow. So this being the Buddhist belief, what happened was Charvaka as a philosophy, because of lack of supporting documents and everything, vanished from. But the modern atheists and materialists, hedonists, they are the current Charvakas whom we can say prevalent in the modern world. So with this as the basis of Charvakas, let us get back to our Bhashya or our commentary from Vidyaranya. He says, Sa eva karta sukhi ityadi sarva vyavahara moolamidi. This karta, as per the Charvaka, is the doer who enjoys the pleasures, but they don't accept karma and karma phala. They are doers and enjoyers of pleasure, but it is nothing to do with karma and karma phala. So they have not been able to answer why all karmas are not resulting, even though it is desirable to get pleasures, it is not resulting in pleasures. They have not been able to say that. They say it's all the basis for the worldly transaction. Sarvajana prasiddhahi satyam atma vishayo vicharaha na syat ityata aha naha iti. The objection which has been raised by this, that since it's a view of the popular acceptance by many people who are not lucky enough to study the Vedas or the other scriptures, they accept the method of Carvakas. So they say there is no need for further inquiry into the self. So the Advaitin says that no, Naham iti. That is the way in which the Advaitin takes on the Carvaka. Aham aham shabda pratyayalambana pratyagatma. What is aham? Aham aham shabda. This is used even by Carvaka. Aham. So there is a alambana, means what you call dependency or a support on which you use the word aham. Shabda pratyaya. This shabda pratyaya, aham, or the word, epistemologically the word aham, is pratyagatma as per the Advaita. Bhudaganaha ya devaha sa na bhavami tasya gadadivat drishyatvat ityartaha. That I cannot be a conglomeration or a homogeneous or a heterogeneous form of elements like the air, water, fire, etc. The body can be, but not the doer or the I. The self cannot be a aggregate like the pot. Pot is an aggregate of many things. There is a potter doing, there is a mud, there is water, you need a wheel, you need those days the prime mover for the wheel, then you need fire, you need, the material bringing by either by a donkey or a cart, then human effort like the potter and his assistant, etc. So many things are put together to make the pot. The pot is not just the mud alone. The mud alone cannot transform itself into a pot. It has to be, mud is only the material cause. There need to be an intelligent cause, which is the aham, who is the doer for the pot. So the body which you and I call that is the place where the pleasure take place, is a material which is from aggregate, but not the one who is the enjoyer of pleasure in the body. Who says I am happy? Not the body. There must be somebody who is enjoying the happiness in the body. So as an object of experience, the happiness, even though is an object for experience, the subject who is experiencing the happiness has to be different. Why? Because a pot which is made by the potter, it is his produce. But the product pot is visible, distinct and different from the potter. The potter doesn't make the pot itself. Then doesn't become the pot. Potter is different, the pot is different. Therefore, naham iti, when the Advaitin is refuting, it is in this view that he is refusing that I am not the Bhudagana, means I am not the aggregate of these materials which you think that I am made, air, water, etc. Again, punaha, akshaganaha, shrotradi indriya sangataha api aham na bhavami. The other thing which they said is that it is again aggregate of sensory organs which are part of the body, which is again made by air, water, fire, etc. So the Advaitin again refutes that, saying that I cannot be an aggregate of sensory organs which are indirectly made of matter. Wow, how? Because the sensory organs are different from the one who knows through the sensory organs. He is the subject who even knows the sensory objects as objects. Not only what it is sensing, he is sensing the object which is sensing, but not only that, he also knows that it is an instrument for him to sense it. Therefore, akshaganaha means this collection of sense organs also cannot be the aham shabda. So, tata, so the word tata in the same way, iti padena, dehavat indriya ganasya api bhuta vikaratvam darshitam. Dehavat, like the body, indriya ganasya means the aggregate of sense organs. Bhuta vikaratvam, it is a formation from the matter which is now being used as sense organs. So it is not different from the materials and they are objectifiable. Therefore, it cannot be the one subject who is knowing them. Sava yesha purusha anna rasamayaha ityadi shruti ubhayatra pramanam. We have studied that Sava yesha purusha anna rasamayaha tato. All this thing in the Taittiriya towards the 9th chapter we studied that. This person is made of essence of food. So even food is a matter. So made out of essence of food, the mind is made of food, the prana is of water, speech is of fire. All these things are what we studied in the Taittiriya Upanishads confirms that both body and sense organs are matter. And matter cannot be the consciousness or the awareness which knows the matter. Hence, it cannot be the self. Nanu yadi dehadvayam tvam na asi tarhi shunyameva asyat iti ashankya aha edatiti. So the Carvaka is not letting go. He is saying that if you are neither the gross material nor the subtle body, then wouldn't that apply that you are shunyata, shunyameva? Nanu yadi dehadvayam, that is the gross and subtle. Tvam nasi, you are not. Tarhi, then shunyameva, you will be the shunyata or emptiness. Iti ashankyaha, if that is the question, the reply is no. The self is referred to as edat vilakshanaha. In the sloka, it is that edat vilakshanaha. Vilakshana means distinct from these without attributes. Lakshana means attributes. Or what is being referred to. Both ways you can take. As attributes or as what is being referred to. Here it is being taken as what is being referred to as the gross body or the subtle body. Therefore, vilakshana means distinct from. This aham has to be different from the subtle and the gross body. Etabhyam stula sukshma dehabhyam viparita dharmakaha asmi. Why? Viparita dharmakaha. The nature is opposite. Viparita means opposite. Dharmakaha means piece of the property entirely, nature of property or the nature in which the aham shabda and the nature of the body, which is the stula sukshma deha, gross and subtle body. The nature, how is the nature different? Because in the Shastra, which the Carvaka do not accept, it is said that astulam, ananu, ahruswam, adirgam, all these words are used to represent aham. This self, this is there from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Astulam, it is not gross. Ananu, it is not subtle. So it is neither subtle nor gross. Ahruswam, it is not short. Adirgam, it is not long. All these are opposites which are used for the self to show that it transcends any attribute. If you say one attribute, the following attribute is opposite to that. Therefore, it is neither this nor that. It is beyond this and that. So any attribute, lakshana, can never specify what is the nature of self. Ayam idrishaha saha vicharaha. This is the way in which the inquiry has to be performed by the seeker, who finds how, but because he may fall into the trap of the Carvaka and say that, emerging, nature of consciousness, etc. But the emerging consciousness cannot be from the matter. What comes out of matter can only be matter. Matter cannot produce consciousness. That is a known thing. Because what comes out of water will be water. What comes out of wood will be wood. What comes out of light will be light. What comes out of fire will be fire. Same way, we can say that what comes out of from all the things other than the self will be matter only. Iti Vyakyartha chaturtaha padaha shloka chatushtaye avi bodhavya. There are now remaining four sections which are going to follow. All of them will be saying that vichara idrishaha, vichara idrishaha. So that has all the four forces have to be understood in the similar manner, because he is not going to repeat the methodology in which this section has to be understood. So we have summary that the self is ever present in witness. It is never known as an object. Pointing to the body, sense organs, etc., we are now very clear that they are perceived and is therefore different from the perceiver. We have also support of the Upanishadic text, which is supporting the nature of self, which is beyond form, class, speech, etc. No classification possible at all. And thereby establishing that self is distinct from gross, subtle, all type of bodies through which the pleasure and the other things are being enjoyed by us. The enjoyer has to be different from the enjoyed. So this needs the deep inquiry into the vichara. Then the next verse is Ajnana prabhavam sarvam jnanena priviliyate sankalpaha vividaha karta vichara soyam idrishaha. Sarvam, everything, means everything including the idea of the I, ego, is Ajnana Prabhavam, is a product of ignorance. Jnanena Previliyate. The only antidote for ignorance is knowledge. So therefore, they completely disappear or vanish when the right knowledge appears. Not knowledge which is textual or scriptural in nature with Ajnana Samshaya Viparya. If you have a doubt, if you have not understood it properly, it will never become your experience. Of that Ajnana will not go. Karta, the creator of all experiences, various experiences are nothing but thoughts. the creator of that thoughts is a product of Ajnana Prabhava. Is the nature in which this inquiry has to be now done. What does Vidyaranya say that? Tadeva kohamiti etat nischitya idanim kadam idam jagat jatam ityasya nischaya kriyate. Now, having ascertained who am I? So, that was the first question, who am I? Koham kadam idam jatam. So, first one is koham. Now, that has to be ascertained first. Unless you know who am I, the rest of the things have no reference or relevance, because if I keep changing, the objects also change. How will I come to a conclusion? If transition and changeability is the nature of things, we will never come to a conclusion, because every time it will be in perpetual motion or change. So you will never come to a firm understanding or knowledge about what is happening. This is exactly why we will see that science is doing great. They are producing great material for manpower, mankind and everything. But it's ever evolving, changing. So those who did science as the ultimate, each time when they are exposed to new knowledge, they have to rewrite their old knowledge. While they say they are basic, the old knowledge is basic, now this is advanced knowledge. That is how they call it. So even if we look at it, the way in which we communicated from Morse code in tapping, sending sound, then it became from Morse code to telephone with a mouthpiece separate and hearing aids, hearing piece separate, and then came the rotation table, rotating dials, etc. Mobiles, now mobiles to sensitive mobiles to smartphones, and smartphones to satellite phones. Science is developing, no doubt. So is technology changing. So is the knowledge about the methodology in which this has to be deployed. I am not saying that these are all not good, but it doesn't answer who am I. That's all I'm saying. The mobile cannot answer who am I. Even ChatGPT will not answer who you are. Or even you do go to DeepSeek or any other AI. AI will only answer what is available in the internet, fed by somebody. The data bank has to be there, and that may keep evolving. No doubt about it. But the answer for who am I will not be given by, because that is a personal experience. You will never be part of internet. Your data, like your name, location, size, age, everything can be part of the internet, but your experience as who am I can never be part of any internet or for the ChatGPT or AI to find out. So, having ascertained the answer to who am I, now the determination is toward the whole list of verses. Because in the last verse, after while refuting to Carvaka, the answer was given, who am I? The one who is knowing the pleasure or happiness is the Atma and not the aggregate of material. So that has been answered as who am I. Now who is the Jagat, or what is the Jagat, or how is the Jagat formed? Tatra Prithivyaadi Bhutani Kadyatvat Swaswa Paramanubhya Jayante iti Tarkikatayaha Manyante. Now he is bringing the other philosophical schools for establishing what is the world. The Tarkikas or Nyaya Vaisheshikas, what they call it as, or logicians, hold the view that the gross elements like Akashadi are effects and are born from their respective atomic nature. which is something similar to the today's, the fine as atomic science. Paramanu, they call it as Paramanu. That is, the measures were different. They were not able to go to microscopic level. The microscopes or atomic level, they could not go. But as per them, the Anu is a measure which is the 1/16th of the thickness of a human hair. That was the finest they could calculate. And that is called by the Tarkika or the Vaisheshika as the Anu. And the Anu, the smallest measure, is not visible for sense organs. But when multiple Anus, that is when the aggregate of these atoms join together, that becomes a gross material for senses to measure. That is, 1/16th of a human hair cannot be seen by eyes or any other touch or any other means. But when 16 parts of the hair starts assembling one by one, at certain level, they could say three gunagam, like two atoms, three atoms, like that. They add up for calculation. That is the time when it becomes gross and visible for the sense organs. Karmena jayate iti Mimamsaka. The Mimamsakas or the Purva Mimamsa from the Vedas or the Purva Kanda, they assert that the world is a product of karma. It is a ritualistic output. From the rituals, a effect is coming called adrishtam or apurva. These are the two words used by the Mimamsaka, which cannot be seen. That ritual produces an effect which is not visible for the sense organs, but they, when in contact with the Panchabhutas, the five, Akasha, Prithvi, Teja, Vayu, all of them, they take different effects and they become matter for the world to become Bhudaganaha or the Pradhana. What they call it as the world, Jagat. Karmana jayate iti Mimamsaka. Pradhanat eva iti Sankhya. Now the Sankhya school of philosophy, which is the oldest philosophy in the world as it is, the Sankhya Sutras are not available. But Sankhya Sutras reference in the Sankhya Karika is the one based on which we know that there existed a sutra called the Sankhya Sutras, like the Brahma Sutra, the Jaimini Sutra or the Brahaspatya Sutra, etc. So both Sankhya Karikas, Sankhya Sutras and the Panata is the author for Sankhya Sutras. And the Brahaspatya Sutra of the materialists, Carvaka. These have been lost in the period of time. They are not available. So the Sankhya's Shastras, they consider Pradhana, primordial matter or the unmanifest Prakriti. That is the cause for the world. Prakriti means Trigunatmika. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas is the nature of the gunas of the Prakriti. And Prakriti, when quantiplication, the three when they join together in different proportion, then you get Sattva, Rajas, Tamas as matter which can become then the world. So Pradhana has to be present for the Prakriti to become the world. The Prakriti by itself is inert, Jada. Whereas Pradhana is the Chetana or the Chaitanya or the one which is the prime mover. But they don't consider Pradhana as self or Brahman. So they consider the Pradhana as the cause And when the Prakriti produces, or when the material world manifests, each manifestation contains an atom or a small portion of pradhana in it. Therefore, the self and the material or the Prakriti are multiple in nature. Prakriti is one, but it can manifest in many forms in the presence of pradhana or the prime mover, primordial matter, and that divides itself to become multiple objects in the world. This is how the Sankhya is considering the world has been created. Tadedat nirakurvan aha ajnanat iti. But Advaitin says that all these things, whether you call it as Sankhya, whether you call it as Vaisheshika, Nyaya Vaisheshika or Mimamsa, all of them are talking from the point of ignorance, because the world is not born separate. There is no separate world. The Vedantin says that Ajnana praviliyande. That is why it is a Jnanena praviliyande. Sarvam jagat idam nama rupatmakam ajnana prabhava. All that what you call it as the material world is nothing but a product imagined in our ignorance from name and form. What is name and form is changeable. And that becomes the product for us to experience. And that is due to ignorance, because the Nama Rupa is a product of ignorance. And when the Nama Rupa becomes the world, I cannot experience anything in the world without a name or a form, etc. Nama Rupa means name, form, qualification, attributes, all these things. The Jadi, Guna, etc. All of them will come in that. If it is not there, no world exists. Therefore, the existing world, which is experiential as per Advaitin, is dependent on the something on which you attribute name, form, quality, class, etc. Ajnanat purvokta swaswarupa spuranat prabhavati. They are all due to ignorance. From the true nature of the self, they aspurana, when you do not know the nature of the self, you feel that the world, which is nothing but the self, is now taking different name, form and attributes. We will come to how this is happening later in the text very clearly. Now the example is given is that Tathavitam ataha eva etat virodena jnanena swaswaspuranena tama iva prakashanam praviliyate. Nishesha leenam bhavati ityartaha. So what is that? Tadhavitam. In such a world, therefore, the opposing force which is of nature of knowledge or the true knowledge, when shines forth, because that is present everywhere. It is shining everywhere. The subject, the object, which is the dichotomy which we have created, in both of them the self is shining. but the subject is not able to know the nature of the object as self itself, because the attributes, the name and forms which is product of ignorance covers the nature of self. Now the question can come, if the knowledge is self-effulgent, how can ignorance cover the nature of self which is self-effulgent? The reason is that jnana, even though can remove ignorance, the ignorance has a special capacity which we call as avidya, maya, etc. The reason is that the instrument through which we have to use to know the world is the place where the defect is lying, not in the objects, not in the subject, but the instrument for measuring, which is the mind or the sense organs through which we are in. We think we know the whole world, but the whole world, we categorize them into 7 colors, and then gravity, electricity, magnetism, etc. What is known to us, into that we will categorize. But we do not know if there are any other forces or any other things which we need to know, because we cannot know because of our instrument. So even a distant star which is light years away becomes known to us only if we bring it into a knowable output, either in the form of a film or an X-ray or a print or by the Hubble telescope, which naked eye cannot see. So we are extrapolating our eyes, same way we extrapolate every sense organ for knowing the world. But without the sense organs with the sense organs limitation, the extrapolation is not really giving you any new knowledge of anything extra outside the 5 sensory means with which we can know. So what happens is that we are dependent upon the 5 sense organs and the mind for knowing the world. Therefore, we get into an issue of limitation or the defects of the instrument transferred onto the object, and we say the object is different from me. Even though the object is not different from me, how it is not different from me? Later in the textbook, but I'm giving as a preamble now here. That we are not able to judge. But with simple thinking, we should be able to understand that. If I am not known to me, that aspect of me, even if it is present right inside my hand as a marble or an object, I see the object as different from me inside my hand, as a marble or a flower or something like that. But the stuff which I am made, the stuff with which the flower is made, have come from the same source. So how can they be different? They are not different. But since our instrument through which we measure the object is defective, or the incapability of us knowing our own true nature, oh, am Idrisha, who am I? That was answered. I am the knower. But I, being the knower, cannot know myself in the world. But when this ignorance, which is in the instrument, is dissolved or disappears due to right knowledge from the means of logic, experimentation by ourselves. We cannot do the experiment externally because we are going to find out our true nature. So the experimentation, the lab, and the object of experimentation is I myself. There is no way. But what I do, the experimentation, what I do, the method is the similar which you can do, any Tom, Dick and Harry can do. And the logic with which I am doing, if applied logically by others, they also will know what is the nature of my true nature or who am I. Nishesha leenam bhavati ityartha. Entirely, the incapability of knowing me becomes completely dissipated or disseminated in the presence of the right knowledge when we apply the logic and the method which the textbook is going to refer to us. Once that is studied properly, we will never have the problem of that I am Brahman or I am Atma can be known through the objects outside just as I will know myself. I will not see the difference between this thing. This is the Sarvatma Bhava which we studied in the Taittiriya Upanishad and all this. How do we do that? The verses coming here beyond is going to mention that. Here, the Koha vai karta ityasya nirnayam aha. In the commentary, Vidyaranya says that, who is indeed the doer or the knower? Sankalpa iti. If you think that you are the doer, then it is an imagination or an intention or a volition. Vivida nana prakaraha. Different ways in which this thing. I am the eater, I am the seer, I am the singer, I am the walker. All these different type of doing or the volition or the activity is attributed onto the self when the self is not even doing anything. The body is doing, so the sankalpa, the thought from the body of the Sushma Sharira, I am doing this, idam karishyami, ityadi lakshana. This is the way in which I do that. I am doing this way. They are all nothing but andakarana parinam. They are all nothing but modification of our mind. I told you the instrument is the defective one. So when the instrument becomes defective one, then what happens is that then karananukula vyapara van. I get conditioned by the instrument. Now, for example, for my mobility, if I use a bicycle, the speed and the distance traveled per time is limited. The same place, if I use a motorcycle or a mechanized one, the distance will be more. On the contrary, if I use a higher vehicle like a car or something like that, the speed will be further and the distance covered will be that. Or if it is any other instruments, if I can fly, it will be still farther. So karana anukula means depending upon the instrument, vyapara means the transaction also changes. Same way, my instrument with which I am using the transaction is terming me as the doer, the reader, the talker, the sender, the singer, etc. due to the defect of the instrument, karana anukula vyavara. So my inquiry, kidrishaha, what should be my way of inquiry? The inquiry should be both about the world and the subject-world interaction. Just don't stop at the world. The subject-world of interaction also equally important for us to go ahead further with the inquiry. Now, how the inquiry further to be done, we will see it in the 15th sloka in the next Wednesday class, not Friday, Sunday. In the next Wednesday, we will continue the 15th verse. Etayor upadanam ekam sukshmam sadavyayam yadavyam ritghadinam vicharas soyam idrishaha. That verse we will take it in the next Wednesday. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavada.
I guess I'll go ahead. Prakash and I are both on tap for this. So thank you so much, Vindaji, for taking the time with us and progressing the class forward. And I opened hand raising in chat. And so we have about a half hour for anyone who has a thought, a question, a doubt about what was being discussed today or the earlier Aparokshanubhuti classes. And we do usually keep our general Advaita questions for Sunday, although, as I'll announce at the end, we won't be having the open discussion this Sunday, but we will a week from then. So anyone at all who would like to come up, or Prakash also if you have anything.
Yes, I want to thank Bindoji again for the deep probing aspect of vichara and how to use the viveka to distinguish the various paths, the Sankhya, Sishta, Advaita, and Advaita. So it's a kind of an open thought, because see the aspect of the creator, somebody creating this, is the overbearing aspect of these different diverse paths. So Advaita, so in the Advaitic path, the focus is primarily on the instrument. That's what I understood, Bindoji. The focus is on the very nature of the instrument through which this is perceived. And in that sense, it seems to very closely align with how we are progressing in the modern sciences. So I was wondering if you have any further things to, say about that.
Thank you, Prakash. The instrument, not only the instrument, our dependency on the instrument and the defects of the instrument both are contributing for the wrong knowledge. Now, if you do not know the instrument you are using or the methodology you are using is wrong, you may think that you are doing the right thing, like how the Carvaka did, no? It's an emerging principle of consciousness, is an emerging principle. But they never thought that they should delve deep into that. How can consciousness emerge when it is a path which is different from the material? What matter can produce is only matter. Consciousness not a product of matter. That is known, and the reversibility of matter to energy, energy to matter, everything we have seen that. But consciousness converting back into material or material becoming consciousness is not possible, because the observer who is doing is very much part of the observation. Even we know that the particle science, where they say that the influence of the observer changes the particle's behavior. So which all these things are proving to us today that our Vedantic approach, where we wanted to first establish the observer and his nature before even analyzing or calling the nature of the world, whether it is real, unreal, or what is its purity or what is its nature. Before arriving at those figures, we need to know, as an observer, if I do not know, my observation is not valid for the rest of the people. That approach is the one which Advaita wants the whole world to accept it. Not say that Advaita alone is right. No, Advaita never says that we are alone right. Even though they are Advaita, we are telling the truth, but the truth is you are also the truth. That is Tomasi. We are saying that. But when you are accepting it, you should accept it in the way in which Advaita has got the guts to say that you are also the truth. That is because Advaita uses no instrument which is defective. The same instrument where the defectiveness was has been now rectified with the right knowledge. Therefore, the knowledge which Advaitin says is with the instrument which has no defect. And he has the guts to say that you are also that which I am. Which even the scientist cannot say that I am the observer, the observed objects is same as me. No. Because the instruments are still not free from the defects. And the observer never considers himself to be part of the totality. He still stands apart for observation.
Yes, thank you, Binduji. Thank you. I think this time the room seems to be that if somebody is going to press their mic, they can come up, I think. I'm not sure if that is the case, but it appears so in my window here. But if anybody wants to raise their hands and come up, we still have another.
Gopal, you wanted to say something in the beginning?
Yes, Gopal is up here.
Namaste, Binduji.
Namaste.
It was a wonderful wisdom today. And one thing what is the instrument itself, if it is defective, and then whatever we do, it mainly becomes a result will be like that. And one more thing is
slightly louder, Gopal. I can't hear you properly.
Yeah,
slightly louder.
Okay. One second. Hello.
Yes. Now it's better.
Yeah. So one thing is about the instrument, and second thing is like whatever is created with the matter, it again becomes the matter. So that is something very important. These are the two important points which I can gather from this today's session. And now, with that aspect, what I was contemplating on is, see, if we have the body. So, but when we were even before we were born, it was like basically all started with a single cell. So now, and one more thing is now if I see, I am aware now, right? I mean, basically I can feel that I am alive now, at least, right? I can see that I am there, right? I don't want to say it is as awareness or anything, but because everybody knows that they are there, right? If I ask somebody, are you there? Yeah, they will say that they are there, right? So now, but
yes.
This awareness of I am there, if I go back in my, if I reverse this thing, right, timeline, and go fast back, like just like how we used to reverse that VCRs in the olden days. So if I go fast forward to like old, like maybe 5 years, when I am 5 years aged, so but still there is some there must be some awareness, and that time if I see some 2-year kid also, he will strongly defend himself that he is there, right? I mean, with any reactions. So now, but I may not remember when I'm 2 years, I was 2 years old. And then in the same way, if we go reverse in the past, then the point will come where even that was only a single cell, right? So now the question here is, that means that means there must be something which is which is present in the single cell, also is that same thing which is present now also. So can you put some light on that, Binderji? Like how is it? I mean, this is what is my analysis, but what does Advaita say about this? Is there anything?
Yeah. What you are saying is very similar to something called panpsychism, where they say that everything is consciousness, but then they say that there are multiple consciousness. Every cell, individual cell has consciousness. That's what they say. So you can read more about it if you read about panpsychism. So, but what Advaita says is that this is all in the mind, sankalpa. Even the single cell, which the panpsychism says, or the people say that has consciousness, he is talking about the consciousness as a feeling, expression, or experience. But what Advaita is talking about is not the consciousness or awareness or knowledge or anything of a nature or where there is a awareness for a cell. But the very reality or the substratum or the fundamental principle or the primordial stuff from even the single cell appears is what is called Atma or Brahman, which is different from consciousness. Even though the word in English we use consciousness for the purpose of it, but it is not the consciousness which we use in English. It is that primordial stuff or the fundamental truth which is not anywhere you can locate in time, space and causation or objectification. All the time, space and objectification and causation is present inside that primordial stuff, and each one of them are nothing but primordial stuff itself appearing as time, space, causation, objectification. Due to qualities which are present in the primordial stuff itself, highlighting that aspect, it becomes the space. Highlighting that aspect as time, it becomes the time. Highlighting the aspect of, the other factors becomes the object, causation, etc. But the primordial, if you look at the primordial stuff, none of these qualities can be independently seen because everything is present. That is why in the Advaita they say that when you know the nature of the primordial stuff as your own nature, you will know that everything which has come out from the primordial stuff, which is Brahman, is now appearing as space, time, causation, object, like the world, with the attributes like length, distance, color, etc., with our five sense organs, etc. But the knowledge that the fundamental reality from where everything comes out, you cannot call it as awareness, you cannot call it as consciousness, you cannot call it as existence, you cannot call it as anything. Even these things are coined words for the mind to become no mind. Because the thought which we do all these things are through our mind, we want to become something or we want to know something. The knowing desire in the mind regulates us from knowing the truth. Because the methodology of knowing known to us is always limited with the expression of, as you rightly said, awareness or consciousness as I am there. But I am there. I am neither the there nor the time when I am now, but I as amness also not there. By I, without the amness, without there, without the time, all those things are without that, there is an I, which is primordial in nature, where I also is not there. Because I is also a word from the transactional point of view. But how do I know that? You cannot know that through the means of knowing in the ordinary sense. But at the same time, Advaita says that it's Sakshat Aparoksha. When you are transcending your knowing means, that means when the knowledge comes and you know that the ordinary means of my knowing is not going to work in the realm of knowing myself, you set aside your means of knowing like the mind, etc. That is the time when it becomes you, not as a object known, but as the subject being the subject itself. This is how the Advaita approaches the whole thing.
Thank you, Bindoji. So, one more question. Is in that case, is it whatever we know, books we read and a lot of knowledge we gather and discussions we do, everything we are doing with the mind only. So, but we are trying to go beyond the mind.
Yes.
So, in that case, does it not become an obstacle itself? Means our gaining knowledge or discussing these things. Will it not be seen as a? It can be what I can say, paradoxical or opposite, something like that. Means it is it is becoming can't it become an obstacle itself in itself, the seeking in this way?
Yes. You use a thorn to remove a thorn. When your leg is pricked with a thorn, you need another sharp instrument similar to the thorn for removing it. It is the same way in which the mind has to be transcended by that which can make the mind become no mind. That is why when the Upanishad or the Advaita says, it is Astulam Ananu, it is neither gross nor subtle, neither short nor long, neither here nor there. When all these type of explanations are given, or Achintyam Abhyaharyam Ekatma Pratyasaram Prapanchopashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam, all these type of words which are being used by Advaita is only for the purpose of the mind should come to know that it is a small, limited tool which depends upon the sensory organs and think that I am the great. It has no knowledge beyond that. And when the mind surrenders the ego that I know everything, then the mind becomes no mind. And in that mind, no mind, where the ego is not there, the I will be the replacing the ego with the knowing of being. That is the time when it takes place.
Thank you, Bindoji. I just want to close my thing with a statement. Basically, here I remembered one story that is of that Hiranyakashipu, right? That Narsimha, God Narsimha, like he kills that, and he's having a vara, right? So but finally, what happens is basically he kills him when basically not in the day or not in the night, and not outside, not inside, those kind of things. So somewhere I think I can correlate that here. Maybe I need to contemplate on that, but that is a very beautiful what you said, like somewhere I can correlate that. So maybe that is the some kind of wormhole we have to get into which is in between.
Right. So that example of Hiranyakashipu being killed by Narasimha is the right example which you brought in. Thank Gopal for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Srinivas?
Namaste, Binduji. I think, thank you. Very
Namaste.
beautiful session. I think today's session is is equivalent to hundreds of clubhouse discussions we do day in and day out regarding different philosophies. So it's, I think, in that way, you also emphasize the importance of this text, and the way you explained it is also, I think, because they are ultimately, even if they write 10 pages of refutation on a philosophy, or here the refutation is one line, I think I could see that it is all boiling down to that. The way you said only mud can come from mud, and I think that's very interesting, and I found it very useful, Binduji. And another point I like this self-inquiry. That word sometimes becomes so weighty word that people at least not people, maybe there is a tendency to lose direction in the weight of the word of self-inquiry. But here saying vichara soyam idrisham, it is as if we can just take this template, and it's not something that we have to invent, the self-inquiry, but this is the template, tried and tested some template. I think this is another. So two beautiful things, and looking forward to the next session also, because that will complete I think this text is going to be awesome in that way, that it's smoothly flowing, and it's not like some difficult Upanishad, Adhyaropa, Apavada, those kind of things are not there. So thank you. You explained it very nicely, and lovely session. Thank you.
Thank you, Srini. Atmisha, we can close.
Yeah, we can. We closed hand raising so that we could, in respect of Binduji's time, close timely. Some of the people here have been fortunate enough to have been on the retreat with Binduji last weekend, and he's still not back home. So to accommodate transitions that will eventually get him there, we will not be having rooms here this Friday for a class, nor this Sunday for the usual open Advaita discussion. And as Prakash mentioned at the start, the next room here will be a week from today, on Wednesday, to have the next Aparoksha class. So we'll get the calendar in order and put out a chat within the next day or so. But we'll see you again 1 week from now. And Binduji also mentioned at the beginning of the class, if people are looking for the replay from 3 days ago on Sunday, the replay didn't occur accidentally, and so it's true that that's not there. But all the classes, the recent classes, and the Q&As before that are on replay and in a timely manner. Binduji also gets those up on his YouTube channel, which connects to some podcasts as well if people have a better time listening in that format. The channel on YouTube is Advaita Retold. And they're, of course, here. And thank you so much, Prakash, for right now and for a while to come. I may have problems sometimes on the early end of the class being in coverage, although I can hear just fine, but can't open the room always. So, and especially thank you to you, Binduji. I know you've been giving a tremendous amount of your time recently on that retreat. And I think we're all benefiting from it, not only through you, but through people like Srini and others who are at the retreat. So I don't have anything else. Binduji, would you like to close us out?
Thank you, Atmisha. Thank you for your words and announcements. Thank you, Prakash, for your question and the opening. Gopal and Srinivas, wonderful questions and statements from both of you. Thank you all there down for being there. You are my inspiration. We'll see you again on Wednesday. Next Wednesday. Hari Om. Good night.
Hari Om.
Good night.